My beloved brothers and sisters in Ayala, there comes a moment in life when you realize that no matter how much you plan, how much you try, and how much you hold on, things don't always go your way. And in that moment, you are faced with a choice. Either you fight what is happening, filling your heart with frustration and confusion, or you pause and you accept. Not a weak kind of acceptance, but a deep, powerful acceptance that says, there is a wisdom here, even if I don't understand it yet. And when that acceptance enters your heart, something begins to change. The same situation that once felt heavy starts to feel lighter. The same uncertainty that once scared you begins to feel manageable. Because you are no longer resisting what is written for you. You are trusting it. There is something within the human heart that naturally resists what it does not understand. When things go against your expectations, when life takes a turn you did not plan for, the first reaction is often discomfort, sometimes even frustration. You begin to question, why is this happening? Or why didn't things go the way I wanted? And without even realizing it, you start pushing against what has already been written for you. This resistance may not always be loud or visible, but it exists quietly in your thoughts, in your emotions, in the way your heart struggles to accept what is unfolding. In Islam, this internal struggle is something deeply recognized. A believer is not expected to feel nothing when faced with difficulty. Feeling pain, sadness, or confusion is part of being human. But what matters is how the heart responds after those initial emotions. Does it remain in a state of resistance, or does it gradually move toward acceptance? Because there is a clear difference between experiencing hardship and resisting what Allah has decreed. Resistance often comes from thinking that you know what is best for you in every situation. You plan your life based on what you see, what you desire, and what makes sense to you at that moment. But your understanding is limited. You see only a small portion of the bigger picture. There are things hidden from you, outcomes you cannot foresee, consequences you cannot fully grasp. And yet, when something doesn't go according to your plan, you feel as though something has gone wrong. The Quran gently shifts this perspective. It reminds you that what you dislike may actually be good for you, and what you love may not be good for you. And Allah knows while you do not know. This is not just a statement to be read, but a reality to be lived. When you truly reflect on this, you begin to understand that your resistance is often based on incomplete knowledge. You are reacting to a moment without seeing where that moment is leading you. Acceptance, on the other hand, is not about denying your feelings or pretending that everything is easy. It is about recognizing that what has happened was not random, not accidental, but part of a decree that carries wisdom, even if that wisdom is not immediately visible. It is about allowing your heart to settle, to trust that there is a purpose behind what you are going through. There is a beautiful balance in Islam between effort and acceptance. You are encouraged to strive, to make dua, to take action, and to work toward what is good. But at the same time, you are taught that once something has been decreed, once it has happened, your heart should not remain in a state of constant resistance. Because resisting what has already occurred does not change it. It only increases your inner turmoil. When a person remains in resistance, they often replay situations over and over again. They think about what they could have done differently, what they should have said, how things might have turned out if only something had changed. This constant mental struggle creates restlessness. It keeps the heart unsettled, unable to find peace. But when acceptance begins to take root, those thoughts start to lose their intensity. You no longer feel the need to fight what has already passed. Instead, you begin to focus on what you can do, moving forward. Acceptance also brings a sense of humility. It reminds you that you are not in control of everything, and that is not a weakness. It is simply the reality of being human. There is a greater plan at work, one that is not limited by your perspective or your timing. When you accept this, you stop placing unrealistic expectations on yourself to control every outcome. You allow yourself to trust in a wisdom that goes beyond your own. This does not mean that you stop making dua or stop hoping for change. Islam encourages you to continue asking, to continue seeking ease, to continue striving for what is good. But there is a difference between making dua with trust and making dua with resistance. When you are in a state of resistance, your heart is unsettled, demanding that things must change immediately. But when you are in a state of acceptance, your heart is calm. You ask, you hope, but you also trust that whatever happens will be for your ultimate good. The life of a believer is filled with moments that test this balance. There are times when you will not understand why something happened. There are moments when the pain feels heavy, when the answers feel distant. In those moments, acceptance is not something that comes instantly. It is something you grow into. You remind yourself again and again that Allah is most wise, that His knowledge is complete, and that your understanding is limited. As this understanding deepens, you begin to notice a shift within yourself. The same situations that once caused intense frustration begin to feel more manageable. You still feel emotions, you still experience difficulty, but your heart is not in constant conflict. There is a quiet sense of trust that begins to settle in, allowing you to move forward without being held back by what you cannot change. Acceptance also protects you from falling into despair. When you resist everything that goes wrong, life begins to feel overwhelming, as if nothing is going the way it should. But when you accept that there is a purpose behind every decree, even if you do not fully understand it, you find strength in that belief. You realize that your story is not defined by a single moment, but by a journey that is still unfolding. And perhaps one of the most beautiful aspects of acceptance is that it brings you closer to Allah. Because in that state, you are not just acknowledging His power, but trusting His wisdom. You are saying with your heart that you believe there is good in what He has chosen for you, even if you cannot see it right now. And that kind of trust transforms the way you experience life, allowing you to walk through it with a heart that is softer, stronger, and more at peace. There is a kind of peace that people often search for in external things. When a problem is solved, when a situation improves, when life finally feels stable. But in reality, peace does not always come from what changes around you. Sometimes it comes from what changes within you. And one of the most powerful internal changes a person can experience is learning to accept what Allah has decreed, even when it is difficult. Because acceptance has the ability to calm a heart that is otherwise constantly in conflict. When a person resists what is happening in their life, it creates a continuous inner struggle. You may go through something painful, and instead of processing it and moving forward, your mind keeps returning to it. You question it, you replay it, you try to make sense of it in ways that only increase your confusion. This resistance keeps your heart unsettled. It is like trying to swim against a current that is already too strong. The more you resist, the more exhausted you become. Islam teaches that while you may not always understand the wisdom behind every situation, you are encouraged to trust that there is wisdom.
This trust is not blind. It is rooted in your belief in Allah's knowledge, mercy, and justice.
When you truly believe that Allah knows what you do not know, it begins to ease the tension inside you. You no longer feel the need to fight every situation. Instead, you allow yourself to accept it, while still hoping for ease and improvement. Acceptance brings a sense of inner calm, because it removes that constant resistance. It does not mean that the situation becomes easy, but it changes how you carry it. A hardship that is carried with resistance feels heavier, more overwhelming. The same hardship, when carried with acceptance, feels lighter, not because it has changed, but because your heart is no longer fighting it at every step. The Quran repeatedly reminds believers that Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. This is not just a comforting statement. It is a perspective that reshapes how you view your struggles. When you are going through something difficult, it is easy to feel like it is too much, like you cannot handle it. But when you reflect on this teaching, it gives you strength. It reminds you that even though it feels heavy, there is a capacity within you to endure it. And that realization itself brings a sense of peace. Another important aspect is that acceptance does not remove your right to feel. Islam do. It's not ask you to suppress your emotions or pretend that everything is fine. You are allowed to feel sadness, to feel pain, to feel confused. Even the prophets experienced deep emotions. But alongside those emotions, there was always a return to trust. They did not let their feelings turn into rejection of what Allah had decreed. Instead, they expressed their pain while still maintaining their connection and reliance. There is also a difference between acceptance and giving up. Sometimes people misunderstand acceptance as being passive or not trying to improve their situation. But in Islam, you are encouraged to take action, to seek solutions, to make dua, and to strive for better. Acceptance does not stop you from doing these things. It simply changes your state of heart while you do them. You act without being consumed by anxiety. You try without being overwhelmed by fear of outcomes. When acceptance enters your heart, it creates a kind of balance. You are neither careless nor overly burdened. You understand that your role is to make effort, and the results are in Allah's hands. This balance is what protects your peace. Because when you place all your peace in outcomes, it becomes fragile. If things go your way, you feel calm. If they don't, you feel shattered. But when your peace is rooted in acceptance, it becomes more stable. It does not collapse every time something unexpected happens. There are moments in life when acceptance feels very difficult. When the pain is fresh, when the loss is deep, when the situation feels completely unfair. In those moments, acceptance may not come immediately. It may take time, and that is okay. Islam does not demand instant perfection. It encourages a gradual return. You remind yourself gently, again and again, that there is a wisdom behind what is happening, even if you cannot see it yet. You hold on to the belief that it exceeds. Stores over time, this belief begins to soften your heart. The same situation that once caused intense frustration begins to feel more manageable. You start to notice small moments of calm, small shifts in your thinking. You begin to see that not everything has to make sense right now for you to be at peace. You allow yourself to exist within uncertainty without feeling completely overwhelmed by it. Acceptance also opens the door to gratitude, even in difficult times. This does not mean you are grateful for the pain itself, but you begin to notice the things that are still good in your life. You realize that even within hardship, there are blessings that remain. This perspective brings a different kind of peace, one that is not dependent on everything being perfect, but on recognizing that there is still goodness present. There is also a deep spiritual connection that grows when you accept Allah's plan. You feel closer, not because your situation has changed, but because your heart has turned more fully toward Him. You find comfort in making dua, in remembering Him, in knowing that you are not alone in what you are going through. This connection itself becomes a source of peace that nothing else can replace. And as this understanding deepens, you begin to move through life differently. You are less shaken by unexpected changes, less overwhelmed by delays, less consumed by why me thoughts. You still care, you still hope, but you are not constantly at war with your circumstances. There is a calmness that stays with you even when things are not perfect. This is the kind of peace that acceptance brings. It is not loud or dramatic, but it is steady. It allows you to carry your struggles without being crushed by them. It allows you to move forward without being stuck in the past. It allows your heart to rest even when your situation is still unfolding. There are moments. Then into the life when something happens, and the first thought that comes to your mind, it can be a loss, a delay, a failure, or a situation that feels unfair. That question rises almost automatically, and it carries with it a sense of confusion and sometimes even quiet art within the heart. You look at your effort, your intentions, and you wonder why things didn't go the way you expected. This reaction is very human, but Islam gently teaches you to move beyond that question towards something deeper and more meaningful. The question, why me, often comes from a place where you see yourself at the center of everything. You measure events based on how they affect you, and when something painful happens, it feels personal, as if you have been singled out. But when you reflect on the teachings of the Quran, you begin to understand that life itself is a test. Every person, without exception, is tested in different ways. Some are tested with hardship, others with ease. Some are tested with loss, others with abundance. And each test is designed specifically for that individual, based on what Allah knows about them. When you shift from why me to what is this teaching me, something begins to change inside you. You are no longer stuck in questioning the fairness of the situation, but you start looking for meaning within it. This does not mean that the pain disappears, but it gives the pain a direction. Instead of being lost in confusion, you begin to search for understanding, for growth, for lessons that can help you move forward. The Quran reminds believers that trials are a part of life, and that through them, faith is refined and strengthened. When you face a difficulty, it is not necessarily a sign that something has gone wrong. It may be a sign that something is being shaped within you, your patience, your reliance, your humility. These are qualities that do not develop in moments of ease. They grow in moments when things are not going your way. Letting go of why me also means letting go of the idea that you deserve a life without hardship. Sometimes without realizing it, people expect that if they are doing good, if they are trying their best, then life should be smooth. But the lives of the prophets show a different reality. They were the most righteous, the most sincere, and yet they faced the greatest trials. This teaches you that hardship is not a sign of being abandoned, but often a sign of being tested in a way that carries purpose. When you hold on to the question, why me? For too long, it can slowly turn into frustration and even distance from Allah. You begin to focus more on the difficulty than on the one who allowed it. But when you release that question and replace it with trust, your heart begins to soften. You start to say, there is a reason for this, even if I don't understand it yet. That statement alone carries a deep sense of iman. Trusting in divine wisdom does not mean you have all the answers. It means you accept that you don't need all the answers right now. You recognize that your knowledge is limited and that Allah's knowledge is complete. This recognition brings a sense of humility. You stop trying to understand everything immediately and instead you allow things to unfold. There is also a kind of emotional relief that comes with this shift. When you are constantly asking, why me? Your mind stays stuck in the past, trying to analyze what has already happened. But when you move toward trust, your focus shifts to the present and the future. You begin to think about how to move forward, how to grow from this experience, how to become stronger through it. Islam also teaches that no hardship is meaningless. Every difficulty carries some form of purification, elevation or protection. It may be removing sins, raising your status, or redirecting you away from something that could have harmed you. Even if you cannot see these outcomes immediately, believing in their existence brings comfort to your heart. There are times when the wisdom behind a situation becomes clear later in life. You look back at something that once hurt you deeply, and you realize that it led you to something better. It shaped you, taught you, or protected you in ways you could not have understood at the time. These moments become reminders that trusting in Allah's plan is not without reason. It is based on a reality that unfolds over time. Letting go of why me also strengthens your relationship with Allah. Instead of approaching Him with confusion and atirad, you approach Him with trust and reliance. You continue to make dua, to seek ease, to ask for guidance, but your heart is calmer. You are not demanding immediate explanations. You are placing your trust in His wisdom. This does not mean that you will never feel that question again. It may come back in moments of weakness, in times of deep pain. But each time it does, you gently guide yourself back. You remind yourself that this if is a test that you are not alone in your struggles, and that there is a purpose behind what you are going through, and slowly this becomes your way of thinking. Instead of being overwhelmed by every difficulty, you begin to face them with a sense of purpose. You still experience ups and downs, but your heart is no longer lost in confusion. It is anchored in trust, in the belief that whatever you are going through is not random, but part of a plan that carries wisdom. Even if that wisdom is not yet visible to you. There is a moment in every person's life when pain feels overwhelming, when a situation becomes so heavy that it seems difficult to carry forward with the same strength as before. It may be a loss you didn't expect, a hardship that came without warning, or a long period of waiting that tests your patience in ways you never imagined. In those moments, it is very easy to see pain as something purely negative, something that only takes away from you. But within the teachings of Islam, pain is not without purpose. It is not empty, and it is not meaningless. It carries within it the potential for transformation, for growth, and for a deeper connection with Allah. When you begin to rely on Allah during times of difficulty, something shifts within you. At first, you may turn to Him out of need, out of desperation, because you feel like there is nowhere else to go. And that itself is a beautiful beginning, because when all distractions are removed and you find yourself in a place where only Allah can help you, your connection becomes more sincere, more focused, more real. You are no longer making dua out of routine. You are calling upon Him because your heart truly needs Him. This reliance known as Tawakkul is not just about saying that you trust Allah. It is about living that trust in the way you think, the way you respond, and the way you carry your pain. It means that even when things are difficult, you hold on to the belief that Allah is in control, that He sees what you are going through, and that He will bring ease in a way that is best for you. This belief does not remove the pain immediately, but it gives it direction. It turns it from something that only hurts you into something that shapes you. The Quran reminds us that with hardship comes ease. This is not just a promise of future relief, but also a reminder that within the hardship itself, there are elements of ease that you may not notice at first. It could be the strength you develop, the patience you learn, the clarity you gain, or the closeness to Allah that you begin to feel. These are forms of ease that exist even while the difficulty is still present. When you rely on Allah, you begin to see your struggles differently. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, how can I grow through this? This shift is powerful because it changes your role from someone who is only affected by events to someone who learns and evolves through them. You begin to take lessons from your experiences, to reflect on your actions, to improve your character, and to strengthen your faith. There is also a deep sense of comfort in knowing that your pain is not unseen. In Islam, nothing you go through is wasted. Every difficulty, every moment of patience, every tear shed in silence is known to Allah and carries reward. Even the smallest hardship has meaning. This understanding brings a kind of peace that cannot be found in simply trying to avoid pain altogether. Sometimes pain becomes the reason a person returns to Allah after being distant. It softens the heart, removes arrogance, and reminds you of your dependence. In times of ease, it is easy to feel self-sufficient, to believe that you are in control. But in times of difficulty, that illusion fades. You realize how much you need Allah, not just for solutions, but for strength, for guidance, for peace. And in that realization, your relationship with Him becomes stronger. Reliance on Allah also teaches you patience in a deeper way. Not just waiting for things to change, but being able to remain steady while they are still difficult. It teaches you to continue your efforts, to keep making dua, to keep hoping, even when the outcome is not yet visible. This kind of patience is not passive. It is active, filled with trust and resilience. There are moments when the transformation is not immediately visible. You may still feel the pain, still struggle with the same situation. But over time, you begin to notice subtle changes within yourself. You become more understanding, more compassionate, more aware of what truly matters. You become less attached to things that are temporary and more focused on what is lasting. This is the growth that pain can bring when it is combined with reliance on Allah. The lives of the believers who came before us show this clearly. They faced hardships that were far greater than what many of us experience, yet they remained firm in their trust. They did not see their struggles as reasons to lose hope, but as opportunities to draw closer to Allah. And through that closeness, they found a strength that carried them through. There is also a sense of purpose that begins to develop. You start to see that your experiences are not just random events, but part of a journey that is shaping you into who you are meant to become. Every challenge, every difficulty is contributing to that process. And while you may not understand it fully right now, you trust that it is leading you somewhere meaningful. As you continue to rely on Allah, your heart becomes more at ease, even in the middle of uncertainty. You are no longer overwhelmed in the same way, because you know that you are not alone in what you are facing. You know that there is a wisdom behind everything, even if it is hidden from you at the moment. And slowly, pain loses its ability to break you in the same way. It may still hurt, but it no longer defines you. It becomes something that strengthens you, something that refines you, something that refines you, something that brings you closer to a peace that is not dependent on everything being perfect. May your heart always find strength in moments of weakness. May your struggles become a source of growth and closeness to Allah. May you be granted patience that steadies you and trust that uplifts you. May every difficulty you face lead you towards something better than you imagined.
May your journey be filled with guidance, ease, and a heart that remains connected no matter what you go through.